It is officially the most wonderful time of the year, and that means it's time for a low spice Christmas romance TBR. Starting off with a book that I read last Christmas season, we have All I Want for Christmas by Maggie, Knox. This book is by the same author of The Holidaze Swap, which I mentioned in my previous video that was Closed Door, No Spice Christmas Romance TBR. And this book follows Sadie and Max. They are competitors on a reality singing show competition, and they get paired up for duet week and then have great chemistry. The fans love it, so the producers continue to pair them up and kind of create this fake dating scenario with them. And this book is less in-your-face Christmassy, I would say, than a lot of Christmas books. It's more subtle Christmas, and it takes place in Nashville and then also is partly set in Banff, Canada, which I thought was so fun. I just really enjoyed this one. I feel like it's perfect for Christmas time and also into winter as well. Another romance on this TBR is Holiday Romance by Catherine Walsh. This one follows Molly and Andrew, who are friends who always take the last flight out from Chicago to get home to Ireland for Christmas, and they catch up on the plane, and this year their flight gets grounded. And Molly knows how much Andrew loves the holidays, loves Christmas, and she wants to get him home for it. So they take planes and trains and boats and taxis and all the ways to try to get them home for Christmas. And will they stay just friends? And that's kind of the whole question and scenario. And I feel like this one would just be so fun with the road trip, but not just road trip, all the means of travel with the friends and the history, but the Christmas, and it just sounds so fun. I cannot wait to read this one this season. Now we have a couple of books by Sarah Morgenthaler, and first we have her Moose Springs series, which is set in this small town in Alaska. And the first book in this series is called The Tourist Trap. And our male main character, Graham, owns a touristy restaurant, essentially. And then our female main character, Zoe, comes to town to Moose Springs to visit. I think it's been on her bucket list forever. And she meets Graham, and of course, things kind of go from there. I feel like these would just be so fun with the small town, also Alaska setting. It just seems perfect for winter and Christmas, and also just so interesting to read about because Alaska is so different than at least where I live. The second book in this series is Mistletoe and Mr. Right, and this one follows Lana and Rick. And I believe Lana is this rich, socialite, ritzy kind of gal who I think maybe grew up or is from Moose Springs but has left, and now she's coming back. And then the male main character who has been in love with her for years, and somehow they get involved in this Christmas mystery thing together, and they're working together. And this one sounds really interesting as well. I love the shared history and some kind of mystery going on. This one just seems like it would also be really fun. And then the third book in this series is Enjoy the View, and this one follows our female main character, River, who is a struggling actress. She agrees to do this documentary on Moose Springs, and our male main character, Easton, is kind of tasked with the job of getting her and her crew up and down this mountain safely. So I assume the documentary somewhat involves a mountain and climbing and nature and all of these things. And I feel like this would be the perfect, with the mountain, the wintry, snowy kind of ambiance that would be perfect on just a cold, Christmassy day. And then last by Sarah Morgenthaler, we have The Christmas You Found Me, which came out earlier this year. It's the first book in a new series she's starting, the Heart of the Wilderness series, I believe. And this one follows our female main character, Sienna, who is kind of feeling lonely out on her family's land. She's living out in Idaho, and then she somehow meets our male main character, Guy, whose daughter is on the kidney transplant list, and she can only stay on the list if he can prove that he can afford the anti-rejection medicine that she would need after the transplant. And so I believe there's some kind of marriage of convenience. I've heard this is a very emotional romance, a very slow burn romance, and I feel like this would be perfect in the midst of reading maybe some more fluffy holiday, hallmarky Christmas romances. If you wanted something that packs a little bit more of an emotional punch, I feel like this would be a perfect one to pick up. The next author is Emily Stone, and she has a couple of Christmassy books out, and I believe her books lean a little bit more women's fiction mixed with romance and a little bit more emotional as well. So first we have Love, Holly. This one follows Holly, who after a car accident tore her family apart. Every year she has done something through this program where she writes a letter to a stranger who will also be spending the holidays alone, and in turn she gets a letter. So it's like a letter exchange. And this year when she gets her letter, she recognizes a place that the person mentioned in the letter, and so she decides to go help this lady be reunited with her estranged grandson, and she's just gonna go help. And then she realizes that this grandson, Jack, she has met before, and they had a little bit of a spark. We also have A Winter Wish, and in this one, our female main character, Lexi, finds out that her dad, who she hasn't really spoken to in 10 years, left her half of his Christmas travel company, but he left the other half to Theo, who worked with his dad at this company. And there's a rule in, the leaving of the company that they have to co-own the company together for at least a year before one of them, I guess, can sell and leave. And so I assume there's some kind of romance going on with her and this guy. And I just wonder, was that her dad's intention? Did he know something she didn't? I don't know. I feel like this one would be really fun. And also a Christmas travel company sounds like just a fun environment and business to read about as well. And then last by Emily Stone, we have One Last Gift. This one follows Cassie, who she and her brother Tom lost their parents when they were young, and now Tom has passed away as well, and so Cassie is kind of feeling alone, feeling lost. And one day she discovers this envelope, which is the first clue in a Christmassy scavenger hunt that her brother would always do for her. And I think he'd been telling her this year was going to be the best yet, and then he had passed, and now she's finding the clues and getting to go on this scavenger hunt, even though her brother is gone. And it says it leads her to romance and adventure and all of these things. And so, like I said, I feel like this one especially would lean a little bit more women's fiction, but it also says there's a romance. So I'm sure she meets somebody through all of these clues along the way, whether that's what her brother intended or not, I'm not sure. Next we have a couple of books by Holly Cassidy. First we have The Christmas Wager, which follows Bella, who is a real estate developer. She's coming to this small town of Maple Falls to buy up this little Christmas shop, I believe. And somehow Jesse kind of gets in the way. I believe he's the grandson of the owner or something like that, and he kind of blocks this deal. And so they strike up a deal that whoever wins the annual town Christmas games can pick the selling price. I feel like this just sounds so fun. I love a small town. I love a good wager. I love a good Christmas competition kind of thing. I feel like this would just be a really, really fun one. And then we also have The Christmas Countdown, which follows Callie, who she gets dumped, and then she somehow has to live next to her ex and his new girlfriend. And her sister basically makes her this Christmas Advent kind of calendar to help cheer her up. And it's full of basically Christmassy tasks and activities to do. And apparently they lead her to a charming baker. But I feel like something like this where it's just Christmas activities, Christmas task, a bucket list, an advent calendar, all of those things are so fun because they pack in all the Christmassy activities that we all want to be doing during the Christmas season, but we don't all always get to because we also have to buy gifts and we have to work and we have to do all of these other things. And so I feel like reading books like this are so fun because even if you can't get to all those activities that you wanted to do during the holiday season, you can at least read about them. Next, we have two books by Josie Silver. The first is A Winter in New York. This one follows Chef Iris, who is in New York. She's walking around Little Italy with her friend and passes this gelato shop that she thinks looks kind of familiar. And she ends up going back and meets Gio, who is the nephew of the owner. And he's like, my uncle's in a coma. He's the only one who knows the secret recipe. We're going to have to close down. And she tastes the gelato and recognizes it and is like, no, this is a gelato that I made with my mom. I know the secret recipe. And so then I think she's helping him keep the shop open. But then when the uncle wakes up, what happens? You know, why is this the same recipe? What is kind of missing from this equation? And this one just sounds really fun, and who doesn't love a Christmas book set in New York? And then we also have One Day in December, which follows Lori, who is standing on the sidewalk one day. She sees this man on the bus. The bus leaves, but it's like a love at first sight kind of thing where she just feels like he is the one. And she's like, surely I'll see him again. A year passes, she doesn't see him, only to then see him again when her sister introduces him to her as her new boyfriend. And I believe you follow like all of their stories for like 10 years as they grow and change and evolve. And this one sounds intriguing to me. I feel like it's definitely very insta-lovey in the fact that like she sees him, doesn't even talk to him, and is like in love with him. But I'm also very interested to see like how these relationships evolve and change over 10 years and kind of what the trajectory of these romances and even just friendships and sibling relationships and everything kind of go. By Falon Ballard, we have All I Want Is You, which follows Jess, who is a romance author, you know, pinning away her happily ever afters. And her ex, Nick, is also a romance author who somehow is making a living writing stories without happy endings. And they are also like their exes, but I believe they're also like rivals in the writing world. And they somehow end up snowed in together, sharing a room, and are both in this writing slump. And so you kind of get to follow like how they interact, how they maybe get out of their slumps, maybe help each other do that. And this one just sounds really, really fun. I'm normally, like I said, not a big enemies to lovers, not a big workplace kind of thing, but this one sounds so fun to me. I think it's the aspect of like their writers and their romance writers. And I also loved Lease on Love by Falon Ballard that I read like a month or two ago. And so I'm really excited to read this one. Last but not least, we have In a Holidaze by Christina Lauren. This one follows May, who is going to spend Christmas at this snowy cabin in Utah that I believe has like her parents have owned for forever, but it's their last Christmas there because they're selling the cabin, I believe. And as she's driving away, she's leaving for the last time, she gets into a wreck and finds herself on the plane flying to Utah for Christmas again. So if you can't tell, this is a time loop repeating kind of Christmas romance, and I just love a time loop, a magical realism, especially in a Christmas book, and so I'm really excited to read this one soon. Okay, and that is my list. If you are looking for more Christmassy reads, specifically No Spice, I just posted a whole video about that with like over 30 books that I would love if you would go check out. And I'm also planning on reading a lot of those books and the ones I mentioned in this video in a holiday reading vlog that will be coming very soon. So definitely subscribe for that and lots more Christmas content to come. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Take care, friends.